Hello everybody, my name is Phythodas and here we have a new build. This is the Frozen Blades build. As you can see here, our character holds two swords, frozen swords. They have the visual effects of cold, probably, yeah. Snowflakes, actually, as we can see, some snowflakes on the weapons. Anyway, this character is a Frozen Blades the build and it is a Thane class. To play Thane class, you need to play with Warfare Mastery and Storm Mastery 2. So, what is this build all about? This build is all about this sword, Pagos. Pagos means, what does it mean? It means ice, yeah. Pagos is the Greek word for ice. So, this sword can also be called ice because Pagos, the name of the sword, is Greek. Anyway, yeah. So, this sword is Pagos, it is a nice sword, it is about cold damage, and as we can see the stats, here this sword deals frostburn damage, it has a good chance for cold damage, it gives you cold resistance, and some other things, and also the skill squall. It also has a small pierce ratio, but it is not really important, we don't play pierce damage here, but anyway, we have it, we still have it. The idea behind this build was to make a build by using two swords, Pagos, sword to ice, two copies, dual wielding Pagos, and try to make a build like this one work. And have many squall skills available to use during the battles, in the battlefield. So, as we can see, we have 1, 2, 3 squalls. The first squall is the squall that we get from Storm Mastery. The other two squalls are, one comes from this item and one comes from this item. So, if we click down one squall, it refreshes, two squalls, come on, it refreshes, three squalls, it refreshes. Let's try to do that again, use all squalls at the same time, almost, one after another. And as you can see, we have three squalls going on. And this is the idea behind this build, and I wanted to make something like that work. Let's see if I can do it work fine in the game. It seems that for now at least, so far I have finished epic difficulty with this build. The build works, it works very nicely. And it seems that it will be working very nicely until we reach at least Act 4 in Legendary difficulty. After Act 4, I don't know how much good damage we will be dealing with the build and how much we will survive, all of these things. But so far it is very nice. So, how do we play this build? We play with Warfare Mastery. The skills I'm using are the weapon training, of course, the dual wielding to be able to dual wield Pagos sword. And the skill Tumult, this one I use because it stuns enemies mostly and it can hit 3 targets. And it applies also some bleeding damage, which is not much, but anyway. I don't use it for the bleeding damage, but for the stun of it, because it stuns enemies and it helps. We have dodge attacks, for survivability. We have the battle standard, of course, with the triumph. This is very important, it helps very much, of course, with this build. For example, this build, when you hit with your swords, I don't have my buffs, I don't have them active, as you can see. We only have the onslaught skill, which we use in the left mouse button. This is the damage we deal with these swords without having any buffs. As we can see, this is the critical physical damage actually, not the damage overall. If we trigger battle standard, 3 times more damage critical, 3 times. So as we can see, it is a great skill in the battle standard to have with this build too, it helps very much. And we use battle standard with the triumph. I have some points on battle rage. When this triggers, of course, it helps very much, it boosts our critical damage and physical damage, so it helps. And maybe I will try to max it out later when I max out first my more important skills, like the onslaught, for example, which we use here, and also the add-ons of the onslaught. This is very important for the resistances. that it provides, especially the pierce resistance. The hamstring, this is very nice, especially when you hit one enemy, for example. You apply the debuffs to that enemy, but when you hit the enemy with your left mouse button on slot, and we see that sometimes it uses the Tumult, this skill here, and it hits multiple enemies with the skill here, then these debuffs, reduced armor, defensive ability and slower movement, applied to all of the enemies because of this skill here. So as you can see, this has some very nice synergies with other skills. And we have the Ardor, which is a great skill add-on, which increases movement speed and attacking speed. Our attacking speed is very good, 162%. But as we can see, we have a very fast attacking speed. And of course, when we use on slot, it goes up. It is 179 by using this add-on. We have the Whirlwind skill, which is a great skill. It hits 8 targets maximum. It gives you this 300% movement speed. So when you are far away and you use it, you do this thing. And you hit 8 targets, up to 8 targets. We use, of course, this add-on for the skill, which gives 4 targets maximum, so we can hit 8 targets maximum, and it applies bleeding damage, which is good to have, but again, we don't play a bleeding build, but again, it helps a little bit. You know, you get a little bit damage from this type, from the skill, a little bit damage from other skills, you put them all together and you kill your enemies. And these are the skills that we use for now from Warfare Mastery. On Storm Mastery, we use, of course, the Summon Wisp and the Eye of the Storm. Why? Because the Eye of the Storm provides this big boost to elemental damages, and also it gives you cold and lightning resistances. The elemental damages boost boosts all of our elemental attacks, which is cold and lightning attacks. So it is super important to have it for this build. We have, of course, the Squall skill maxed out, which is the most important skill, I would say, for this build, because it is a Squaller build. Frozen blades with Squalls, as we can see down here, 3 times. And we have, of course, the add-on maxed out, because it is a powerful add-on. It hits enemies, it reduces resistances of your enemies, which means now they receive even more damage from all types of your attacks. Damage types of your attacks, and of course it reduces the damage of enemies, so they do not deal that much damage now on you. I have maxed out this Storm Nimbus skill tree. It provides more cold and lightning damages, Heart of Frost, more cold damages and also some debuffs to enemies, and Static Charge, more lightning damages and lightning retaliation to enemies that hit you. We have the Storm Surge, I will max it out later. It is a great skill. When it triggers, it stuns enemies, but it also deals cold and lightning damages. Stunning enemies helps very much. Don't forget that I use also this skill for the stun effect mostly. So we have this skill stunning enemies. We have this one stunning enemies. It is very nice to have it because it helps with your survivability mostly. So this skill is great. I use the energy shield. This one protects only against lightning and cold. I don't use it that much for the protection against lightning and cold. I use it for the reflection skill, which gives a very nice chance for 220% damage reflected. This skill here works only against lightning and cold, but this damage reflection is a global one. It works against all types of attacks your enemies do at you. They hit you with bleeding damage, for example, they receive back 220% of the bleeding damage. This is how it goes. And yeah, for now these are the skills for the build. Of course, as we saw here, we have 3 squalls. As we said before, we get 1 squall from this sword, 1 squall from this sword, and 1 squall from this mastery, this one here, which is the first one. Now, the squall skills from the weapons are not as powerful as this one, of course. But it doesn't really matter, because they still do some damage. because after all, let's not forget that we have also the boost to elemental damages from this one, and they also help with this sense of impaired aim for 1 second to your enemies, which means, say for example that you are here, you have many enemies far away in the distance, not very far away, but not not in front of you, and you have some melee enemies here fighting against you. So what do? If these enemies are ranger enemies, bows, thrown weapons, or projectiles, skills, mages, whatever, you hit the 2 squalls that are less powerful than the first one, you cast them on these ranger types of enemies, and now when they shoot at you, they miss you because you have applied the chance of impaired aim for 1 second to those enemies. And of course they still receive some lightning damage, so still they help. They help very much. And of course you use this one in front of you when you have strong enemies hitting you. It doesn't matter if these enemies are ranger enemies or melee enemies, whatever they are, when they receive the effects from the skill, the main squall skill, this one helps super very much. And this is the idea behind this build, after all. So this is why I think that this build would be even better on multiplayer, because you know in multiplayer we have too many enemies, because when more people, more players join a party, more enemies we get. So say that we have 3 more players here, 4-player party, we have maybe 3 or 4 times the enemies, and some players hit enemies, you are back, you apply squalls everywhere, and you apply squalls everywhere, and in the battlefield you see everywhere squalls, all the time squalls. There is no squall free battlefield when you play multiplayer with this build, as you can see. Always at least a squall down in the ground. I think this build would be awesome for multiplayer, but we will see when this build finishes the journey. Maybe we will try it in the multiplayer live stream once and see how it does. I think it would be very fun. Now for the items. For the items I use some powerful items that I had in my stash from other characters. I have, first let's go to the artifact. This is a divine artifact, Star of Ishtar. It gives great stats, but I use it mostly for the 20% strength and dexterity. If I take it off, as you can see, I cannot use 1, 2, 3, 4 items. So this one allows me to equip these items now. This happens of course because I do not put many points on strength. Most of my attribute points go to intelligence. We will talk about these things later though. This is why we use this one here. We have the Greaves of the Argonauts, a great item for the resistances, also a boost to strength and dexterity. Offensive defensive abilities are very important at movement speed. I don't have the Braces of the Argonauts, but I don't think that I would use it, even though I would try to use it if I had it, to see if it helps better than the Stonebiter Cuffs. But this item is super important because of the +3 to all skills mostly, and of course because of the chance to avoid projectiles and less damage from beasts. It helps very much. And also it gives 22% pierce damage, which means that since we have 10% pierce ratio on this weapon and this one too, now even if we don't got it, we still deal some pierce damage because of this pierce ratio. So having 22% pierce damage here, it helps increasing the pierce damage that we get from this conversion, even though we don't want this conversion to happen, but we have no choice here. So this is a great item, and I have put the Amun-Ra's Glory because I wanted to get more survivability, strength, energy. Energy is super important for this build. Have energy points because if you got to be casting squall skills all the time, they cost energy, and yeah, we need energy. So this one helps very much. Here we have the Polyvigment. This is great. I use it mostly for the 22% health. The recharge reduction for skills is very important and helpful, of course. That 4 energy regeneration per second is also super important because it helps with energy. The intelligence is super important, and of course the total damage is super important because it helps with all types of damage that we do to enemies. This is very nice, but I'm not sure. Maybe in next difficulty I will replace it with something else if I can find something better. Because especially the 22% health is super important for this build. Now here we have the Master Ford Squiras. This is a Ragnarok item. This is a very nice item. Again, I use this one mostly for the 20% health at plus 234 health. And of course, as you can see, I put one more Amun Rush Glory here to gain more health and energy. Our health is in a very good state right now. This is just epic. Almost 9,000. Very nice. And our energy is in a very good state for now, at least. Yeah. So here we are now with the Atuk, or something like that. This is a great item. As we can see, physical resistances. My physical resistance is 46% right now, and I have combined armor, a very nice amount of armor. So, and we have physical resistance here, 46%. Okay, we have a very nice physical resistance overall in this build. A very nice amount of armor and a great amount of physical resistance. Very nice. I also, once again, I use this one for the strength and dexterity buffs, the percentages. And of course I have attached the incarnation of Ajax, which provides secondary resistances, more health and elemental resistance for survivability. So as we can see, my resistances are very good. Elemental are almost perfect, except for fire. Pierce resistance is very bad. This becomes a bit better when I use the onslaught skill, because of the add-ons of the onslaught skill. This is bad, very bad, this is bad, this is super bad. But overall we have a nice state of resistances for epic difficulty. Now in legendary everything will be bad. Anyway, we will see. Here we have a green ring which provides lots of health and lots of strength. I got it to have this one because without this one, as we can see, I cannot equip 1, 2, 3, 4 items again. So this one allows me equipping these 4 items. This one allows me equipping these 4 items. And I have attached the Dionysus Wine Skin Incarnation Relic on this one to get more physical resistance, health and strength. And here we have the Mark of the Overlord. More physical resistance, bleeding resistance, sleep resistance, health once again, defensive ability very important. Last but not least, we have the 2 swords. This is the Pagus sword. As we said before, it provides some stats, frostburn, some extra physical damage, chance for cold damage, armor protection, cold resistance, strength, attack speed and squall skill. This is the normal version that you get when you fight the Pagus sword. This one, I decided to upgrade this one on, I think it was in a normal difficulty, the upgrade quest. I upgraded and I got some bleeding damage over time, some extra bleeding damage, and I also got some flat piercing damage, which is very nice to have. Not the best buffs, but for normal I think these are good buffs, and they help dealing more damage. Here we are with the items. These are the items, but as I said before, in legendary difficulty we will probably have some changes to the items. The biggest problem will be our resistances. This is what I will try to fix for legendary difficulty. I still don't know how and what I will do, but we will see. Now for the attribute points, most of my points go to intelligence. Because went to intelligence because I did cold damage, lightning damage, elemental damage, and I tried. For now, I tried to get intelligence at least to 500. And I also try to get dexterity at least to 500, and strength is almost 700, it is okay. But as we can see, the white numbers of strength, intelligence and dexterity, strength, dexterity have the same number, 206. Intelligence has the biggest number because I put more attribute points to intelligence than strength and dexterity. And I do that because I want to take intelligence to 500 at least. Of course, there is no standard way to put attribute points here for this build. It all comes down to what items you have right now, what items you plan on equipping very soon in the future, and what requirements those items have on them. This is the problem with this build. It is not very easy to put points here, to decide where to put points, because you have to wait to find the new items, to see which items are best to replace the current ones, and after you find these items, you check the requirements of the items and you see if you need to put more points on intelligence, dexterity or strength, for example. This is how I will play this build, so I don't know how I will spend most of my attribute points in the future, but for now we have most points went to intelligence and some went to strength and dexterity, and I try to see, to play as I said. I see what items I have available, I see what items I have in my stash, and depending on the requirements I put points on each one of the attributes. I have 18 total deaths. Some deaths were unnecessary, of course, as this is a norm for me, for myself. I die for stupid reasons, not serious reasons, mostly. And sometimes I die because I die. But anyway. And we have a very nice state of defensive and offensive ability for now, for epic difficulty. I would say defensive ability around 800 is very nice to have for legendary difficulty, except for some very powerful enemies. These enemies would require even more than 800, but for the most part of the game it would be nice to have 800. I am almost there, so no problems here. Offensive ability again, for epic difficulty this is a very nice number. For later, if I am lucky and I can use some items that would provide even more offensive ability, or if I would be able to put more points on dexterity, increase a little bit my offensive ability, would be also very nice. But still, we have this skill here, which when it triggers it gives plus 33% offensive ability, so it helps. And we have the battle standard, which increases our physical damage and offensive ability. So we still have some ways to increase further our offensive ability and critical hits. This is the build, the Frozen Blades build. I will make a gameplay video soon enough. I don't want this video to be very long and eat away much of your time. And it is a very nice build to play with. I like it very much, it is very satisfying, sometimes it is very funny. And yeah, 3800 critical damage. As you can see, we have a very fast attacking speed. It could go higher, of course, but we need to find the better items to do that. And of course, let's not forget our passive skills like Auras, Storm Nimbus, Storm Surge, and also we have our Summon Wisp, which gives more elemental resistances. And then we keep hitting enemies and killing them. Let's use again Battle Standard. And we go again up to 3800 approximately critical hits, critical damage. So, this is the build. If you have any questions, ideas, suggestions for the build, what we could be using to make this build even better in the future, legendary difficulty, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget, more builds will come in the future, much more content of Titan Quest will come in the future. If you haven't yet, subscribe if you like what you see, of course. And don't miss out the content that comes also for Grim Dawn. Let's not forget Grim Dawn. So thanks for watching this Frozen Blades build. One very funny and nice looking build. I will see you very soon with more live streams and videos, of course.